So about a month ago, I went on a trip back to Vietnam. And for those of you who live far away from your family in another country, traveling isn't fun. Well, for me, anyways, I don't like traveling. But I didn't really mind it because I wanted to see my family. And it's something that I've come to realize being on this earth for this amount of time. I value my family so freaking much, and I'm so freaking lucky to have them. I'm so lucky to have people that I call my family, that I can share things with, and to feel loved and to love them back. I'm so happy for having this family, and ever since COVID, I've told myself that if I can, I'll probably go back to Vietnam at least once per year just to see my family, because I love them. Anyways, traveling isn't fun. I don't like traveling. I just got back from my trip yesterday. 6 hours drive in total, maybe even more. Just back and forth, and I was so tired when I got home. I had a 2-hour nap today as well. I woke up late this morning. Traveling isn't fun for me. I guess the only perks of being a short guy is that when you're on a plane, you don't have your knees up to your chest like a lot of these big, tall blokes. Sitting in one place for 8 hours, man. It wasn't too bad as a short guy. I have plenty of leg room. Anyways, enough of that. I watched this movie, and it was a good movie. You know, sometimes good movies can change your life. Enough of that cliche. But it's true. Sometimes a good movie makes you think. So for the first time in my life, I bought in-flight entertainment to cure my boredom, and because I was an introvert, there were two people sitting next to me. They were both going to Vietnam to travel. I forgot their names already, but they were really talkative. The guy on my left, he was talking to me. But yeah, I ended up just watching the movie. Anyways, for 8 hours, what can you do? For me, if I talk to people, I will become really tired. But yeah, I watched the movie Interstellar. Gosh, it took me 3 minutes to get to the point. I watched this movie Interstellar, and there was this quote from the movie that has stuck with me ever since. So those of you who are big fans of science fiction movies, you probably would like this movie. Those of you who question their existence and think about life and death on a daily basis, you'll probably like this movie. I was that sort of person to choose such movies to watch because I like outer space. I want to know my place in this universe, my purpose, if I even have a purpose, the meaning of life, why are we existing, what is the point of life. I clicked on that movie, was not disappointed. Definitely recommend if you are the same kind of person that I am. Anyways, the main character, Cooper, asked the robot that was on the spaceship that he was traveling in, you know, across galaxies in order to find new planets to maybe colonize and save humankind from extinction. This movie was set in the future, you know, a couple of years from now. I can't remember the exact year that the movie was meant to set in. Again, it's in the future, a dystopian future in which, humans were about to go extinct, and we got to find a way to save the human race. So the main character, Cooper, I can't remember the dialogue, forgive me, but I don't want to ruin the movie either. He asked one of the robots, hey, I think the robot's name is Tars. Tars. So Cooper asked Tars, the robot, hey Tars, what is your honesty setting? Referring to, you know, how truthful the things that the robot is saying is. Maybe it was after a comment, I can't remember exactly. Again, I don't want to ruin the movie, you should check it out. And the robot said 90%. Cooper was surprised. He asked the robot, why 90%? Why not 100%? I thought you are a machine, you're meant to be, honest. You are more honest than human beings, supposedly. But then the robot said something, and this is the quote that has stuck with me ever since. He said something along the lines of, absolute honesty isn't the best way to communicate to emotional beings such as humans. It is not the most diplomatic or safe way to communicate to emotional beings. And wow, I've thought about that quote ever since. And I realized, hey, the robot might be onto something here. I've reflected on the past, in my past, and I realized that sometimes I was too hung up on being honest to people, and I value my experience over others' experiences. And I value way too much on what I have to say and less so on what others have to say. In other words, I was being too full of myself. I value what I thought was right more than what others thought were right to them. And I'm going to give you an example. When I was a child, I was very observant, as a lot of the adults in my life would point out. My mom would say that this kid is very observant. He has an eye for details. He observes things in people. And that's true. But the other thing was, and my mom doesn't really say this, but the other thing was that sometimes I was too honest. You know how I said before, kids, they don't know how to lie. They are the most honest people because they don't have a filter. They say exactly what they think of in their heads. And don't get me wrong, it's a good thing. You should speak your mind. You should stand for what you think is right. But like the robot said, sometimes absolute honesty isn't the best way to communicate, because it is not the most diplomatic, it isn't the safest way to communicate to emotional beings. And I agree with it 100%. Sometimes when I pass by a stranger on the street, I would point at them. I would say to my mom, look mom, that auntie has crowding teeth. Teeth that grow over each other. That auntie has yellow crowding teeth. That was my mom's colleague, by the way, a fellow teacher. And I could tell that the adults were laughing at me, and I thought I was being clever. But now looking back at it, maybe I shouldn't have said that. It's true, she does have crowding teeth. She does have yellowing teeth. But for some people, these things are a big insecurity to them. It is the truth, don't get me wrong, it is an observable truth. But why did I have to say that? Nobody provoked me. Nobody asked for my opinion. And I get it, I was just a kid. But I realized as well, throughout my adulthood, especially in the past couple of years, even when I made those videos, I was the same. I was being observant. I make comments on societal issues. I was being very open about my thoughts. I was being honest. I shared what was being observed in our society at face value. I just pointed out. And what did I get? I got in hot water with HR. Vulgar videos, inflammatory contents, saying stuff that are controversial and unprofessional. In a professional setting, when I struggle hard with this, sometimes, guys, you don't have to say everything that you can see. Sometimes keeping it 90% is the best. And I'm not saying to lie to people, For those of you who are religious, you know this. Like, you avoid lying to people. It's a virtuous thing to be honest, and I get it. You put a lot of stock on honesty and what you think is right, communicating what you think is right, and standing up for what you think is the truth. But sometimes it isn't the best way to communicate, believe it or not. Not until you have established a rapport with another person, another human being, not until you have achieved this bond between you and another human being, and you two have mutual trust, that's when you can sort of be brutally honest to people. But until then, sometimes in order to build connections, maintain civility, and be sensitive towards other people's opinions and emotions, you shouldn't be too honest. There are things that you should just, it's not like you have to lie to people, but just don't reveal the whole truth, if you know what I mean. That's 90% honesty to me. Sometimes withholding certain thoughts that do not serve the other party might be the best way to go. So rather than pointing out to your friends who are indeed bolding, just don't say it. Just focus on other things. Maybe that is the truth. He is bolding. He's going through a midlife crisis. He has depression. Maybe don't focus on that. Focus on the good things. And I'm not saying to ignore the bad things and be an enabler either. Just, there are positive and negative communication styles. And I think for me now, moving forward, I need to focus more on what is good about a person and try to build each other's up, rather than saying things that do not serve them at all, because I do want the best in people, but I also want to be balanced, and I want to be I don't want to be a people pleaser, because again, for those of you who are autistic, sometimes the social conventions do not line up with what you think is acceptable. You think you ought to be honest, you ought to be open about your opinions, but the truth is that sometimes you just need to tone it down, myself included. Try not to say everything that you think is wrong with the person per se. Just focus on what they are doing well, and if you want to make a constructive feedback, praise them first. Hey, I noticed that you are very meticulous with your I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Maybe you can say like, I've noticed that you are very meticulous with this procedure, or I know that you follow the recipe very closely, but it takes a lot of time, for example. Anyways, that's all I have to say, really. Being honest is good. Being brutally honest is not good. But I think there's a difference between being kind and just being an asshole in general. And yes, you can be honest, but if you value what you have to say, the absolute truth over the well-being of others, then I don't know what to say. I guess just do your thing, really. But if you expect to get along with people and build connection, you gotta do what the politicians are doing. They don't say the full truth. They hold something back. That's how you win people's trust. I'm not saying to do that. You know what I mean. You're smarter than that. Anyways, hope you guys are doing well. Stay strong. God bless. I love you all, and I'll speak to you next time.